started going up. They just put one on that day, and our maid told my father, "Oh, it looks like a shop now." And there goes my father saying, "We can't have the shutter in the house, because it has to be a house." So, so I wrote to him. I was going to the airport in the morning, so I just wrote to him on a note, and I said, let them be up for a few months in my birthday, and then we can take them out if you don't like it, but let's see how they do. And they came up on the wall, and of all the people, my grand aunt, who's mostly 80, comes to the house and says, "Sab to badhiya sirf shutter." And so things that looked avant-garde even 10 or 15 years ago today look different, and the sort of vocabulary.
Firstly, Nitin, you frightened the daylight out of me with your story of damaged works. Because we have works going all over. We have loaned works to various museums, various biennales, and will continue to do so. In fact, the Nasreen show, which was the last show we had, is now will be traveling to the Reina Sofia Museum, the complete show, which is a big thing for the KNM. You can have a show opening at a such a prestigious museum as a Reina Sofia, and then hopefully the Met in New York. So that's a major, it's going to be a major loan, but those works are not all owned by the museum. They were loans that we took for the show from various collectors. And we are now arranging the loans for the various museums where the shows are. So yes, we do loan works to various collectors for various shows and to various endeavors which exist.
So I just loan works, Kiran loan shows.
This is remarkable. The first book,
I just need everyone to loan me money.
but this is fantastic.
You insure them when you send.
Oh, of course you insure them, but
About insurance also? Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not, when this collector called me up to say that, my work is washed away, and we had a Tayyab Mehta, a small one, that went for this exhibition. And my heart was in my mouth, not about the price, but firstly, by the time it went and came back, it had gone up in price many folds, so insurance back to the anything. Secondly, even if you get the money, what do you do?
you can't replace the work. You can't replace the work, yeah. So we have shows going to the Gujral for the Gayatri Foundation, and they're invaluable and it's quite practical. But then I think it's your responsibility to loan as well. I think the aim is to expose art to people, that I think you do have that responsibility.
This reference to Nasreen Mohammadi, the first time I brought out the book was in 1996. Geeta Kapoor had written the essay on Nasreen Mohammadi just before this. But it wasn't very well known, it hadn't been very widely publicized. So we invited her to bring this out. This was a book on women artists. There was a show in the NGMA, and we were able to print this essay. From then, 1996 to 2014, the very slow churning of the wheel to see the reputation of Nasreen Mohammadi slowly being established until the point where the KNMA has this wonderful large show where even a studio was recreated, and then as a show, this block of work can now start to move. I think this is what museums do. This is what the museum, the collector, the critic, the connoisseur do together. Is that they excavate. They are actually, everyone on this table, and potentially many of you are like archaeologists. Something has been created and perhaps hasn't received its due. But then this coming together of many kinds of energies, pushing with the energy of someone like a Feroze Gujral who can then push it into an international venue. This is what we do. Art is not only about the accrual of material value, it's about a whole history being attached to one person's effort. Nasreen Mohammadi lived in the most simple kind of circumstances in Baroda. She was unsung when she died. But if you hear the curator Rutina Karoli talk about it, it was amazing. It was such a passionate investment in our exhibition. And now that it's been traveling, it was just shown at the Liverpool Biennial. So this is the making of history of Indian artistry. I feel hugely proud that we could see it actually unfolding for our eyes. We are close to 4:30, which I believe is quite close to where we should invite questions from you. All of us can go on talking. But if there are questions to this wonderful panel which can share this experience.
You just see that painting, you wonder why they are so famous. And there are so many artists, if you see in the museums of the Maharajas, they have died unsung and they have painted such beautiful paintings. So why is this thing there not?
Nitin, would you like to take this?
So I think two things. Art is like a language. So we today are conversing in English because we first went to school for 12 years, we learned the language, then we went to college, then we read and we continue to read all our lives, so now we can understand each other. We think and we expect that every time we look at a painting, we should understand it immediately, but that's not the case. It can be as simple or as complex as biochemistry, you know. So I think a little bit is to learn the language. However, I think people get daunted very quickly, and that's only because, to my mind, they don't see enough, or you don't really need to make an effort. So there are 4 or 5 very good galleries here in Delhi, for instance. They are Gadera, Nature Mort, Gallery Spas, Talwar, maybe 1 or 2 more. And there are 2 museums, or 3 rather. There is Kiran's Museum, there is the National Gallery of Modern Art, and there is the Gujral Foundation in Gurgaon. If one just continues to, at your own leisure, just see exhibitions, and I think ask questions, however silly they might be. You know, someone taught me very early on in life, a major collector when I was 19 or 20, he said, whenever you see something and you don't understand it, ask as many incredibly stupid questions as you can. Every time you look at something, you ask something, you will learn something. So many people just feel that if they ask, you know, they're not going to be looking really, you know, in, yeah, whatever.
I just want to add something to what Nitin has said. I think your question is about abstraction in some way. You can comprehend visual figurative art, but when it comes to abstraction, you have a question. I mean, you wonder what is an abstract painting? And I think that is something that comes with time, with, like Nitin said, questioning and letting your mind flow. It needs that certain opening of the mind to start to appreciate abstract art. Abstract art has wonderful moving qualities, but it takes much longer to inculcate it into your vocabulary.
One of the names we've heard on the panel today, which the museum is lending to the Guggenheim in New York, is Dayton, for instance. Now, he would be the absolute epitome of the abstract artist produced in a certain period of time. But he has a combination of 4 or 5 kinds of histories of abstraction attached to the way he used to paint. So there would be Indian abstraction, what you would understand from the Indian geometric abstraction. There would be Western abstraction. There would also be Zen and Far Eastern thought and philosophy. So for anybody to unravel that, it requires a little bit of application and going in. You want to ask something?
Yeah, how do you spot a potential winner in today's world?
This winner I don't understand. You mean somebody who's going to give you pleasure if you keep looking at it, or something that will appreciate it? That's the question.
So I don't think you can build a collection on the basis of financial consideration. If you do, the chances are you'll get it completely wrong. If you come with that mindset. I mean, it might sound like a holier than thou kind of situation, because for somebody like me who bought things very inexpensively, mostly, things that have gone up in value manifold, and I probably won't be able to buy those things now. But you have to develop your taste, have a wonderful relationship with the dealer and trust the dealer, and continue to buy what you like. And we can talk about, we can talk about art a lot, and you can like it, not like it, but only when you buy art and bring it own and live with it for a certain amount of time, you really understand if it's working for you or not working for you. So there are many things that are very good that I have, which I'm now saturated with, and I don't want to put up it on my bones, and I probably will not. And there are many things that I still have in storage, which I would love whenever I get the chance to change them, and so on and so forth. So you cannot make a collection to say, okay, how do I? So the press in India is really to blame, because there is no art criticism in the public domain in terms of sharing of knowledge. On the other hand, you have a museum culture from the government side which is non-existent, unlike a Metropolitan or a Guggenheim who's finding artists like Mr. Comedy and Gayatri from India and showing them in New York in the context of Western artists of that time. We don't have that here. We don't do enough shows, so we don't disseminate knowledge. So because of that, the learning for the general public is quite low.
Yeah, please.
I think another thing about collectors, I think on this table we have two very involved and long-term collectors. But for people like me, who is recently looking at this part, or a lot of us here, I think collecting also, apart from absolutely loving something, wanting it, is also to actually have a little bit of interest in something. I went for an archival talk the other day, and a lot of collecting happens from simply liking something, or simply liking a type of thing, whether it's figures, or do you want to collect nudes, do you want to collect kind of figurative art, do you want to collect only personal paper. So a good way to start, perhaps, which is what I'm looking at right now, is how do you start collecting something that you really love in an effective way, but with a very single focus, so you can actually have good galleries and read up about it, have other artists tell you what to have or not to have, and go to museums and read collectors for advice. So I think that's a good way to start.
Question at the back? Yeah. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sorry?
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Sonia Gupta, a floor member. This question is directed to Mr. Bhayana. Mr. Bhayana, when you were giving an update on your collection, you said you started very young and you visited the artist studios and then you consulted your mentors, so to say, the other artists, whether those relatively unknown artists were a good buy. I'm very curious to know as to when they said it was a good buy and it was a very good piece of art, what exactly did they say in favor of the artist or the piece of art to make you buy it? What were the guidelines which they recommended on to make you buy it?
So it's a complex question and a very large question, and it is probably difficult to answer, in a short period of time. What I was really beginning to get at is, at that time when there were no KNMAs and there were no publications and Gayatri wasn't writing so extensively and there were fewer collectors and the market didn't exist and no auction houses happened and there were no books, at that time you knew how to find out what is good. So today the situation is very different. If you really wanted to make a collection, you would go to an art consultant, for instance, who might be independent of the gallery system, and you have access, so you can go to KNMA, there is a curator there, you can make an appointment. A lot of people also go to galleries, and if you really want to collect, I would say go to a gallery and make an appointment with the owner of the gallery. Go and have a cup of tea and say, I want to spend 50,000 rupees, and that's all I can afford, I don't know, whatever. And what is it that you show me all the artists that you have, so on and so forth. So you can really take baby steps if you offline.
Mr. Bhayana doesn't have a wife to spend all his money.
I just want to take that question a little forward. Mr. Bhayana, you also said that one doesn't buy for money, right? At least materially, if you acknowledge art only materially, then you're not understanding the value of art. So I believe that you were actually buying art for the love of art, right?
Yes, but I'll tell you something. That's entirely true for me, probably in the first part of my life. However, when prices become very serious, so let's say today I had to go and buy something or bid on a work at auction which is $1 million or I would think about it on the financial side as well. I would. Maybe Kiran would not.
I certainly would.
But you take different, when you're buying something really serious, then you do need, so let me give you an example. Sorry for it to be such a simple, if you're getting married and you have to buy marriage jewelry, you have to see various aspects to it. But if you went into a shop in Jaipur and you're staying at the Vilas and you found something to trinket, you don't really want to think about it. So something like that.
I understand it's a combination of the two.
But now, once again, and that's the last one. So, what were your artistic and your sensibilities which prodded you on to buy a piece of art? Only your artistic sensibilities. What made you connect with the artist?
So I think it was art in general, and my father had a publishing business at the time, and he had a series of magazines on leisure and lifestyle. So Swagat and Namaskar, all these magazines which were first Indian Trustee magazines at the time. So we did the books for the Festival of India and so forth. So we had a lot of artists, musicians, all these people in and out of our lives in a certain way. My father also collected, but not substantially, and he collected purely for decoration. So that was a sort of something in the back of my mind.
I think what we all understand is the separation between the buyer and the collector. The buyer is the person who stops when the walls are full. So if you say for decoration, that is perhaps what you need. It could be great works of art, but you've done your home. You've even seen this very, very large media offices, etc., where once the building is full, they stop. So, but the collector, I think, is a little more obsessive. Your question, please, and then yours.
My question is very simple, but it might be a little tough, which is, who, actually you, Kiran, and Nitin, if possible, who do you think are the contemporary artists nowadays we should be looking out for? Especially in the
Yeah, that's a gallery kind of question, huh? Yeah, sure, she'd be able to.
I'm sure she'd be able to give you.
Yeah.
Can I ask this question a little differently? Kiran, what is the most daring piece of art that you've watched?
The most daring piece of art I've watched would probably be The Line of Control. It's a small sculpture which is 36 feet in height and 36 feet in width, and it weighs 26 tons. And if I had known what it entails to buy that work, I think I wouldn't have bought it. The kind of issues it is created, we have installed it in the mall where the museum is located, and I have to thank the LF that they allowed us to install it, because I have nowhere I can install it, because I'm bound by the government which says I have to have it in a public space. So, because I have had duty free clearance from the government for the museum, as a result I have to, that's one of the most daunting pieces in terms of logistics. But there are a number of other works of art which are, I would think that my first work of art, Rameshwar Bhuta, is an example of a work which is very, very, it's daunting in a different way. It's stunning, and yet it's very explosive in its content. So,
and you think it's also that it's life, it's not something that you grow tired of and remove from your walls, obviously.
It's been in my home ever since we built the home. So.
I can just answer the question.
Which one?
About which are the artists?
Please.
So, we're at an extraordinary moment in time that after the art boom in 2000s till 2005 and then a mania till 2008, the art prices, as we all know, many of you know, went up many fold, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200 times. And since then, many of them came cascading down very rapidly. Some people and certain collectors and some galleries lost confidence in themselves and their own taste, and they flocked towards the modern, which they find is safe because these are the names are been around for a long time. It's an extraordinary moment to buy contemporary art because the price is so incredibly low for what you're getting. So I would run to a good dealer. You only have to run the city right and go and explore who are these fantastic artists who just at this particular point in time are at maybe 5%, 10%, 20% of what their peak values might have been. Their works are as good as they were. They are extremely important. You cannot write art history in India without them, and it's a fantastic moment in time.
You asked your question mainly about women. This is actually the moment where there is a certain efflorescence around women artists.
And yet,
Sorry, I didn't realize that.
they don't get the prices that we are.
They do.
Not always. I think it's, you have to understand that there is a relationship between materials. I mean, if you're talking about large kind of work of a Subodh Gupta, it's hyper-masculine, massive. You're not going to have any woman making that kind of work, or at least she hasn't so far. You're going to find different kind of sensibility at work. It's not that they don't command good prices. You should see the kind of studios women now have built for themselves. It's very complimentary. It's very complimentary to their success, and you feel enormously proud of it. But this is a moment that if you were looking at women artists in the 90s, this is the time when you will look at them again. Perhaps you will look at the same ones, but you will also look at the younger generation, because the excitement around the work is quite profound. Do look at media like video, photography, all kinds of installation material which are now coming into the forefront. Painters, probably fewer, much fewer than they used to be. Acha, there are some questions here.
No, I was probably going to echo the sentiment of people who are a little ignorant in art to say that abstract really represents, ugly is new pretty when it comes to art. So my question to great collectors like you is that do you see the trend of realism coming back for collections that command a heavy price tag? I mean, we still have the Monets that are way up there. Jackson Pollock is an acquired taste. So things like that. So do you see realism? That's where she said, the little known paintings that you see hanging in palaces where the kings have been patrons. Where realism comes back to India in a large way, or on the art scene. So have you been investing, would you consider investing in artists that stand for realism? Is that trend going to happen at all? And not just in terms of antiquity.
Can I quickly answer a little bit before Kiran and Nitin and Feroze come in? I wouldn't use perhaps realism, but a kind of a narrative style that's never gone away. And if you look at an arc of continuity, if you look at from Bhupen Khattar to Nathraj Sharma, the use of the human figure in highly recognizable, palpable, identifiable situations is there. It's there for you to recognize, and it's not obscured by the way